This is Top Accolade Global News Updates. I am Soibifa Jakarich. Rescuers have lost hope of finding more survivors of the Baltimore bridge collapse, the Coast Guard said, as efforts switched on Wednesday to looking for bodies of the missing and more answers to why a container ship smashed into the span. Search divers were expected to return near dawn to the waters surrounding the twisted ruins of the bridge in Baltimore Harbor to search for 6 workers missing and now presumed dead. The disaster has forced the indefinite closure of the Port of Baltimore, one of the busiest on the U.S. Eastern Seaboard, and created a traffic quagmire for Baltimore and the surrounding region. As the odds of their survival vanished, the search of the missing workers was suspended on Tuesday evening, 18 hours after they were thrown from the fallen Francis Scott Key Bridge into the frigid waters at the mouth of the Patapsco River. Maryland State Police and U.S. Coast Guard officials said diminished visibility and increasingly treacherous currents in wreckage-strewn channel made continued search effort on the river too risky to continue overnight. Starting at 6 a.m. on Wednesday, we are hoping to put divers in the water and begin a more detailed search to do our very best to recover those 6 missing people, State Police Colonel Roland Butler told reporters late on Tuesday. It was unclear whether authorities also tried to alert the work crew ahead of the impact. Maryland Governor Wes Moore said at a news briefing the bridge was up to code with no known structural issues. There was no evidence of foul play, officials said. Thousands of people protested in Budapest near Parliament on Tuesday, demanding the chief prosecutor and Prime Minister Viktor Orban resign after a former government insider accused a senior aide to Orban of trying to interfere in a graft case. Protesters marched from the chief prosecutor's office towards Parliament, shouting "Resign, resign," with many carrying torches. Peter Magyar earlier published a recording of a conversation with Judith Varga, then his wife and Hungary's justice minister, in which she detailed an attempt by aides to Orban's cabinet chief to remove certain parts from documents in a graft case. The case is centered on former Justice Ministry State Secretary Paul Warner, who was charged in 2022 with accepting bribes from the former head of the court's Baltimore'S Gorgi Skardal. Both have pleaded not guilty. Prosecutors are seeking jail terms for the pair. Prosecutors said in a statement that they would analyze the tape, which Magyar said he recorded in January 2023, and further evidence would be collected. Prosecutors were scheduled to hold a press conference on Thursday. The allegations come at a politically sensitive time for Orban ahead of European parliamentary elections in June and follow a sex abuse scandal that brought down 2 of Orban's political allies, the former president and the former justice minister Judith Varga, last month. 2 small solar manufacturers said they are joining forces to make panels that will enable their customers, U.S. solar project developers, to collect on a lucrative new federal subsidy for American-made clean energy equipment. The agreement between Georgia-based solar cell producer Soniva and Canada's Helena, which has panel-making operations in Minnesota, is being touted by the Biden administration as evidence that Inflation Reduction Act (IRA) subsidies are succeeding in building a domestic solar manufacturing industry to compete with China. Before this administration, solar companies across the United States were struggling. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, who will visit Soniva's Norcross, Georgia later, said in a statement provided. She noted that 20% of U.S. solar manufacturing jobs were lost between 2016 and 2020. Soniva itself is restarting an ideal factory. Under the 3-year, $400 million deal, Soniva will supply cells to Helena, which will assemble them into panels. The product will be able to supply about 2 gigawatts of solar projects, according to Soniva. That would be enough capacity to power about 350,000 homes. Solar project builders that use panels containing American-made cells will be able to claim a 10% tax credit for using domestic content. According to Treasury Department rules unveiled nearly a year ago, that bonus credits created in 2022, IRA has been regarded by developers as exclusive because there is no current U.S. supply of silicon-based solar cells, predominant industry technology. Chinese e-commerce vendors that want to sell products on TikTok Shop in the US as an alternative to Amazon are upset by moves. They say the short video app has made tightened enforcement of its rules for overseas sellers opening shops on the platform. Chinese-owned TikTok, which faces the threat of having to divest its US operations or be banned, has in recent weeks taken a harder stance towards enforcing its internal rules, according to 5 Chinese vendors on the site and an industry association that represents 3,000 Chinese stores selling products online. TikTok is requiring that US entities registered by sellers be 51% US owned and shared by an US passport holder, said the vendor and Willie Wang, executive chairman of the Shenzhen Cross-Border E-Commerce Association, China's largest seller group based in the manufacturing hub. Many Chinese sellers had used the US entities to be recognized as a US merchant on the platform, but the rules mean they will need to be re-registered as overseas sellers, which they say receive less prominence and support, putting them at a disadvantage compared to US TikTok sellers. TikTok, used by about 170 million Americans, has been seeking to strike the right balance between pursuing rapid growth and managing regulatory risks. It has been rampaging up its rhetoric that a US move to ban the platform will take billions of dollars out of the pockets of creators and small businesses, while simultaneously seeking to catch up to bigger rivals such as Chain and PDD Holdings owned Temu by signing up more merchants. A TikTok spokesperson said the company has clear policies and requirements for all sellers on its shop, including for international sellers, and these have not changed since TikTok Shop was introduced in the US in September 2023. The Chinese vendor said they feel targeted by TikTok rules, and some are thinking about reducing the resources they put into pushing sales on the platform or finding US partners. Visa and MasterCard reached an estimated $30 billion settlement to limit credit and debit card fees for merchants, with some savings likely to be passed on consumers through lower prices. The antitrust settlement announced is one of the largest in U.S. history, and if it receives court approval, would resolve most claims in nationwide litigation that began in 2005. Some critics believe it may not go far enough, saying that savings will be temporary and fees would remain high. Merchants have long accused Visa and MasterCard of charging inflated swipe fees or interchange fees when shoppers use credit or debit cards and barring them from anti-steering rules from directing customers towards cheaper means of payment. Swipe fees typically include small fixed fees plus a percentage of total sale amount and average about 1.5% to 3.5% per transaction, according to bankrate.com. Under the settlement, Visa and MasterCard would reduce swipe rates by at least 4 basis points, 0.04 percentage points for 3 years, and ensure an average rate that is 7 basis points below the current average for 5 years. Both card networks also agreed to cap rates for 5 years and remove anti-steering provisions. Merchants will have more discretion to offer discount or impose surcharges on cards with higher interchange fees. Many already warn customers at checkout they will pay more using cards instead of cash. The fee rollbacks and caps alone are worth $29.79 billion, according to court papers, and Visa estimated that small businesses comprise more than 90% of the settling merchants. Visa and MasterCard denied wrongdoing in agreeing to settle. In separate statements, Visa's North American president, Kim Lawrence, said the accounts addressed through true pain points identified by small businesses, while MasterCard General Counsel Rob Baird said it gave businesses substantial certainty. That is the size of top accurate global news updates. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Wednesday.